Shares of Aurora Cannabis are down steeply by more than 18% after the company revealed there would be temporary declines in international markets performance in its current quarter. The company did see its fourth quarter loss narrow, however, as revenue increased. Let's bring in Miguel Martin, Chief Executive Officer of Aurora Cannabis. Miguel, not a great day on the stock market for your company. Why do you think investors are reacting so negatively to these results?
Well, thanks for having us. You know, in terms of the quarter and in terms of the year end, we had an incredible fiscal year. We had record annual revenue, we had record adjusted EBITDA, and we delivered, record free cash flow. I think, the point that you made about Q1 potentially, is the overhang. But as we stated in our prepared remarks, we see that just in Q1 and getting back to Q2 and the whole year returning, to the same patterns that they've seen in the past year. And we also said in Q1 we would be free cash flow positive.
How do you get to be free cash flow positive in such a short period of time?
Well, we were, for this last fiscal year, we had, the last year we had $10 million. In Q3, it was over $27 million. So I think it's, more of the same. We're seeing extremely high margins, a growing international medical cannabis business. And while Q1 might be a little bit lower than, Q4, we think the overall outlook is very strong.
The company's focus remains primarily on medical cannabis products. Is that correct?
That's correct. We, operate in over 12 countries internationally. We're the #1 Canadian medical company domestically with almost a 30% share, and that is our primary focus, and it is the highest margin segment and fastest growing segment of the business.
Why have you shied away or backed away from the consumer cannabis market?
Our history has been in medical cannabis, and been in that almost, 10 years. The recreational market in Canada, is challenging. The way the excise tax has been structured, the amount of competition, the amount of price compression really doesn't lend itself to have the greatest opportunities for profits. Aurora really prides itself on its profitability as well as its pristine balance sheet. We have no cannabis debt and $185 million of cash. So our focus has been, going into those areas where we can make money, and that's been international medical cannabis and Canadian medical cannabis.
Sorry, how did you characterize your balance sheet? Did you say you have no cannabis debt?
We have no cannabis debt. So we have a side business, which is a non-cannabis propagation business, one of the largest in Canada, called Bevo Farms. They have, some small recourse asset-backed loan debt, but the cannabis business has no debt, and we have $185 million of cash on the balance sheet.
How do you, what do you have plans for that cash? Are you interested in acquisitions at this point, for instance?
We've been very judicious with that cash. We think it's important, where this industry's at. A lot of that cash has gone back investing in our operations, particularly here in Canada, whether that's been upgrading facilities in Ontario or those that we have out in the Vancouver region. We've seen the use of the cash there be very strong. We also have a production facility in Germany. We're always looking to see if there's possible opportunities for M&A. It does need to be accretive for us. So again, we've been patient, and as we've seen, debt really rise and interest rates rise for cannabis companies, with where we're at, we're thrilled to have the cash on the balance sheet.
Do you see the sector as being ripe for consolidation, as the phrase goes? It seems to me there are a lot of players in this sector, both in Canada and other countries that allow legal marijuana.
Yeah, there's no question there are a lot of players. We operate in federally legal markets. In Canada, from a rec standpoint, there are quite a few operators, and I think most are trying to, make a go of it. On the medical side, it's fewer. And so we look at that. I think consolidation, at some point will be here for the industry. Right now we see better opportunities investing behind our own business and growing our own market share as opposed to buying our way to scale.
Where is medical marijuana at right now? How fully has it been embraced by mainstream doctors and mainstream medical communities in the countries in which you operate, including this country?
Yeah, more and more so. We look at, Canada, it's about 1% of the adult populations in the medical system. We really have seen an expansion of interest from prescribing physicians and nurse practitioners. We see that in our patients. Canada, really has first mover advantage globally. Many of the learnings that we've gotten in Canada, we take abroad. Key markets like Germany, Poland, the UK and Australia are embracing cannabis, and particularly Canadian cannabis, which is the highest quality cannabis in the world. And so we see that as a big advantage for us being based here in Canada.
Are you active in the United States?
We are not active in the United States. As we trade on the NASDAQ, we only operate in federally legal markets. We, for a long time, have had the belief that it'll be medical cannabis first at the U.S. at the federal level, and that the FDA would be involved. At that time, companies like Aurora that have been working with Health Canada for almost a decade, we think will have a significant advantage. And at that point, we would enter the U.S. with federal legalization.
We're looking right now at a one-year look at the stock. The stock clearly moves dramatically on news. It's moving dramatically on news today. It's down by 19%. It's vaulted up. It's vaulted down. What stock market investors obviously want in a company in any sector is predictable and growing sales and profit. That's your job to produce that. How far along are you at producing the predictable, positive results that investors want to see?
We think we're very far along. Unfortunately, a lot of people trade this sector as a group, and they're not, as in tune to the individual fundamentals. Cannabis companies are all very different. And so when you look at what we've done, we have been consistent. In the last 12 months, for the last full year, we had record EBITDA, record revenue, and we're one of the few companies that are free cash flow positive. We talked about the balance sheet. We have some of the highest margins in the industry, and we operate in some of the fastest growing segments in medical cannabis. I understand that there are a lot of questions about the overall sector, but when you look at the quarter over quarter performance of Aurora, you should understand it is a different company, and it's one with a bright future.